Okay, good evening. We'll call the meeting of the Bennington School District Board to order. First item on the agenda is public comments. Anybody have anything you'd like to say? Okay, seeing none. Next thing is a presentation by the Vermont Food Bank Backpack Program.
Hello. This is Kathy Hunt from Molly Stark School.
Hello, my name is Kathy Hunt, as Catherine said, and I'm a school counselor at Molly Stark School. And I wanted to come and talk to you tonight about a really interesting and exciting partnership that we have with the Vermont Food Bank. Molly Stark is now one of the 18 schools throughout the state of Vermont participating in their backpack program. And that's new this year. We just started in November. We have 45 kids enrolled, and that's based on what the food bank would allow us to do. So 45 kids, pre-K through 5. We have 3 kids in pre-K, 21 K2, and 21 3-5. So it's a nice split. We've had a few kids move out of the program because they've left the school, and new kids have enrolled. We have about 7 children currently on the waiting list to be a part of that. So what does that really mean? The backpack program's been in existence since 2008. It's privately funded through the Vermont Food Bank and private donors. And Jennifer Hutchinson is the coordinator. And so I contacted her this summer to say, how does Molly Stark get to be a part of that? And what do we have to do? And she asked for our free and reduced population number and the number of kids in our school. And based on that, she said, well, the schools for the 2012-13 school year have been chosen already, but let me see what I can do. And she came back to us the end of October and said, we can do 40 kids. And then when she came to meet with Donna and Gail and myself, she said, actually, we can do 45. And so mid-November was our first distribution. We get 18 crates of food. They hold 10 bags. 10 of these bags, and I'll show you what's in those bags in just a minute. And we get those the first Wednesday of every month from the Vermont Food Bank from Brattleboro. They deliver right to the school. And then every week, I hand out the bags. The bags are delivered usually Thursday after school, after the kids leave, or Friday before the kids come to school, so that they can be put in their cubbies or put behind the teacher's desk or put in their backpacks as soon as they get there. And I have to say, very few kids are stigmatized by this. Lots of kids are excited about it. Lots of kids want to know how they get this. Their names are on that, so in case there's a substitute or kids think that it's supposed to be their bag or it's not their bag, every bag is exactly the same, but their student's name and their teacher's name are on the bag, so in case they get left somewhere as well. The bags come knotted. They're double bagged. I'll show you what's in them. They cover all the food groups. So they come double bagged for security, and that way the bag won't rip, and they don't have to return anything to us. Every Friday is a new bag, so we don't have to worry about that. So they get a cereal. Sometimes it's Cheerios, sometimes it's Crispix. The menu changes 3 times throughout the year. Right now this is the menu, and it will go until March. They get a shelf-stable milk, which is 2% reduced fat milk. It does not have to be refrigerated. Everything that they give can be used without a refrigerator, a microwave, a can opener, everything. They get 2 fruits and vegetables. So this month, or this quarter, it is corn and mixed vegetables. And then there's a soup. Last time it was tuna fish. There's 2 fruits. And this time it happens to be fruit cocktail and mandarin oranges, and then a snack. And this time it is goldfish. Last time it was smart food. So, like I said, the food goes home every week, and parents have been very receptive. Kids are very excited. They will stop me sometimes in the hallway just to make sure that food's coming home. And like this upcoming in February we have the vacation, so 2 bags will go home next week. So I'll do one early, like Tuesday, and another one on Friday, so that they do get the food for that weekend. I did bring along packets of information for people, if you would like it. It has the Vermont Food Bank's backpack program summary. It also has what they call their referral form. We didn't use the referral form only because our turnaround time was pretty quick. We did it by teacher referral or any of the students considered homeless at the time the program started were automatically considered enrolled. Still needed parent permission, but they were one of the first families served. And then there's the permission form or the parent enrollment form, and there's the parent letter. So if you're interested, take a packet. If not, take them back. And recently, just last month, they provided us with the backpack zipper, which is a fun, fact-filled packet of information, has recipes, it talks about nutrition in the My Plate, talks about getting physical activity, and does some activities, crosswords and word searches, and so one of these will go home with every family. I could do every child, but if any new children enroll, I wouldn't have one for them. So we're going to do one by every family. And that is basically the backpack program. Are there any questions?
The main purpose is to help the youngsters over the weekend,
Yes.
is that it? Yeah.
Yep. We noticed that a lot of kids were coming in hungry from day to day, and especially through the weekend.
So when you contacted them, there's an eligibility or a selection process
Yes.
annually. So the opportunity for Molly Stark to continue this, or potentially, because my recollection from our numbers are that this school here has a similar free and reduced lunch population. What is the eligibility criteria, and if you participate one year, are you naturally included the following, or is it kind of first come, first serve, or?
My understanding, although the packet may read a little differently, what Jen shared with us when she came was once you're a backpack school, you're always a backpack school. Okay. And their funding will depend on how many new schools that they can enroll. I don't know the cutoff. I understand that it might be 50%, but Molly Stark is above that, so it was not a question that she had for us at that time.
Right. But so. Bennell is in that similar, you're not quite there, but.
But we've looked into it, and we can actually purchase it for our needy kids. So even though if we could find the funding for it,
okay,
we do have a population that is in need of this,
absolutely.
but we don't fit the 50% criteria.
For the school eligibility.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And she actually did say to us that she would support it if we could find the funding and we could do it for our children.
Well.
We're working on it.
Right.
Any other questions?
Just too general. I mean, are we looking to try to spread that across the 3 schools? I mean, is it something that
we'll be making phone calls tomorrow?
Yeah.
And I have to say, in my conversations, Jen Hutchinson is aware of Bennell. She's aware of Pownell. We didn't talk about Monument because of the number. She already knew. She already has access to
our
the free reduced lunch numbers.
Right.
And now that they already deliver in Bennington, because they already deliver to Brock and to the food shelves, there's no reason why they can't deliver to the other schools.
Right. And will the opportunity, if we're enrolled will the opportunity exist to expand beyond the 45 children?
That's a good question. I don't know. I don't have the answer to that. I figured we would take what we could get this year.
Absolutely.
And then look to see about it.
But it would also it would be interesting to note, what it costs as well, just so that.
I do have the figures, but I don't have them in my head.
But
we did calculate it. She gives us an amount per student.
Right.
And we were looking at, when we talked as a child study team, we were looking at 20 children in our school.
Right. But it would, even if we're only serving 45 at Molly, are there another 45?
Yeah.
And to kind of get a sense of, because this is like so fundamental to life.
Oh, yeah.
You mentioned that they're delivering here. Is there a distribution, or are we connected with the parents? I mean, is there a way that they find out and know locally where the other outreach programs are, and the food shelves and the food banks that are locally, and the calendars? I mean, is there a way that people can get that information either by bulletin boards or handouts, or do we? I know that where I work, there's a network of people, and there's information that's shared, there's emails as well, and you get a list of calendars and times and of all Bennington County, and I didn't know if there was that network within our schools or the SU in general, so that the information is readily available for all of the local.
Right.
food
I don't know
shelves.
if the information is readily available and easy to hand out. It's easily accessible by, making a few phone calls and getting all that information, but I don't know if that being something that's available right now.
I think
in
that
the school
we
system. Good.
don't have that at Molly Stark, but I think it's a great idea. We certainly have, like Kathy's saying, we have the resources if somebody's asking to make it readily available in that front hallway on a bulletin board where, you know, the food bank is open.
These hours, or there are community
Yeah.
dinners that are sponsored by these
Right.
organizations
Exactly.
on
Yeah.
this day or
send you-
that day.
That's a great idea.
Well, send an email to somebody, whoever wants,
Yeah.
that has
That'd
2-month
be great.
calendar with,
That'd be wonderful.
Well, again, now going back, is the reason that it's not available at the other schools a financial reason? Is that the reason why you don't have it now?
Well, ours in particular, because we don't meet the criteria of 50% free and reduced lunch at Monument.
But you can purchase.
She did say that we could purchase. She did give us some figures per child for the, per year, so we could actually calculate it for the remainder of the year, which we have done that. But Monument has to really make a decision if we can find the funding to do that for our children for the remainder of the year. She's already put us on the list for next year, barring the fact that maybe our free and reduced figures will change for next year, we might become eligible.
I guess my question is it something that we as a board should try to do for the, are we really saying for the rest of this year, forget it?
Oh, no, we're really trying to do it for the rest of
For
the year.
this year?
Yeah.
I see. All right.
Well, and the food bank is limited in the number of schools that
Right.
can enroll
Yeah.
during the school year, and they typically.
Their resources are tapped.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they're privately funded, they have a budget which they have to run through too. And because they had an excess, that's why Molly Stark was allowed to kind of jump on this year.
I got you. Sounds like a...
Any others? Yes?
It's a great program.
We'd just like to publicly say thank you, Kathy, so much.
thank
This
you.
has been
Yeah, thank you.
on,
the kids do enjoy
on our conversation for a
Yeah.
while, and thank you so much for taking the leadership role in this. Appreciate it.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda, the mathematics instruction. Ms. Pat Conway.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity to have a math discussion with you tonight. Some of you I know, I see every day, and others, hello. I'm the math teacher leader for the SVSU. That means I provide professional, embedded professional development in the classrooms that invite me in. And this is SVSU-wide, and of course your BSD schools. So I have 4 points to discuss with you tonight. Instructional shifts, what's taught where, when, content, math instruction with technology support, I have that here with me, and then algebra in the elementary, what's all that about? And all that is going to be in about 8 to 10 minutes. Good. So I started with instructional shifts, which there's 3 waves of instruction in the K to 8 arena. And, oh, Mike.
Brother.
Looks like it's coming up. Just taking a minute.
Will it warm up and come up? Sorry. Will it automatically go to what was saved?
Jesus.
Oh, I do have to do this again. Okay. There we go. Okay. 3 waves of instruction in the K to 8 arena. And how I'm going to interact with the smartboard is what students are waving their hands to come up and interact with the smartboard. And there we go. And I'm going to ask for someone to come out and pull out this first green arrow. And you need to have eaten your Wheaties or your supper today. Come up and interact. Is there anyone willing to do that for us?
Go ahead.
Come on up.
It's particularly
And I'd like you to use the soft, squishy pad on your finger. Yeah? You're going to watch the wires. Yep, you're going to touch the green arrow and pull it out.
Watch the wires, Ken.
There you go, all the way out there. Okay, and then tap any white space outside of the blue rectangle. I mean, I would have asked you what that shape was. So, all right, and would you read that for us, please?
Additive reasoning operations and numbers in base 10.
Thank you, yeah. And that is the content in kindergarten, first and second grade. That's what the first wave of instruction is. Could we see what the second wave is, please? You can try on these letters, maybe. Yeah, remember the soft, squishy part of your finger. Yeah. Let me see if I can get it started for you. There you go. Yep, soft, squishy part. Sometimes we use a tennis ball in the second wave of instruction. It'd be multiplicative reasoning.
Part of two-whole relationship.
Yep. It's all about multiplication tables, your groups, and the white space. And 6, 7, 8, your third wave of instruction, are ratios and proportional relationships. Yeah. Thank you. You can have a seat.
You're telling me that.
Sit down, Ken.
K1,
K1, 2, we have all about numbers in base 10. Yep.
Do they advance if they're not strong in those areas?
Advance how?
I mean, do we help them remedially if they're going into third grade and they have trouble with subtraction?
Absolutely. This would be our titled intervention services, which all BSD schools have. Mm-hmm. I have some slides that we're going to interact with, which an example of what each one of these would look like within a classroom. Now this is K-8. Well, what happens in high school? Well, high school is your content-based. Your Algebra 1, your Algebra 2, Geometry, and Trig. That's still very course-specific. We think of these as waves of instruction. And so let's see what it looks like. I'm going to click over here because I'm afraid that if I hit the board too hard, it's going to, there we go. Okay, this is what kindergarten or first grade would see. We have a 5 frame here because there's 5 squares. And would someone come up and tap the dice, please?
Ken, did you want to go?
You're closer.
I'll go up again.
I'm going to tap you on the shoulder to show you how much pressure you're going to use. Tap, tap, just like that.
Twice or just the one?
Try it once and see what happens. There you go. Okay, so you got a 1. Would you pull one blue circle down and put it in this square here on the side? Now the kids are amazed that there's an infinite number of blue dots in that square.
I bet they
No,
are.
that's fine. Well, we have one blue dot, but we'd like to fill that 5 frame up. Kindergarten is all about numbers within 5. So we have 1 blue dot. How many red dots do you need to fill that frame?
The bottom one? 4.
Well, let's see if 4 dots will fill that. All right, are you using the soft squishy part of your finger? All right, let me see if I can get it started for you.
There you go.
There you go. There's 1. How many more do you need?
Focus on getting those circles in the squares.
Get the soft squishy part of your finger. We want lots of surface area.
Oh.
And about this point in the year, our kindergarten students would be writing the number sentence that goes with this picture. And the number sentence would be 1 and 4 more. We wouldn't use the word equals, but we would say that 1 and 4 more is the same as 5. We would have in the technology-supported lesson about 10 to 15 minutes of this interacting because it's only one individual at a time interacting with the smartboard. So we have the rest of the class and they start getting a little squirmy after about 10, 15 minutes. So we go to the 5 frames that the students interact with, and they all have dice, and they're dice that are numbered 1 through 5. because we wouldn't want a dice that has a 6. So we're numbered 1 through 5, and they're interacting with that. And the teacher usually selects someone who has been exhibiting the Bennell or Monument, the best classroom expectations, to come up, and they would be with the smartboard interacting rather than have the paper and the dice. And they color and fill them in and write the number sentences. Thank you. And first graders, rather than a 5 frame, first graders would be interacting with a 10 frame, because first graders are expected to have sums and differences for all numbers within 10. And then second graders would be interacting with a 20 frame, 2 10 frames. Okay. So let's go up to a higher grade level. I know I'm eating into my 8 minutes. Okay. Now, Mr. Law, this might look familiar to you. Mr. Law came in and joined a second grade classroom that was working with this. These are thinking strategies that second graders are familiar with. Jumps on the open number line, making tens, decomposing a number, using easier numbers, trading between place values. That's about as close as you're going to get to 6 and 6 is 12, put down a 2, carry a 1. That's not part of the picture at all in the K-2-1 math classroom, that borrowing and trading places. That's a 4th grade expectation, that students are familiar and work well with that algorithm by the end of 4th grade. These are the thinking strategies that K-1, 2, and 3rd grade. Students come up, they tap on the color block. That one's not going to tap. There we go. And the color fades out. We have an n minus 3 equals 195. An n, well, that's an algebraic concept. Students in 3rd grade are expected to be familiar with a variable, and we use that vocabulary for them, that the variable represents the unknown. Kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade, there's a blank space or an empty box. And we would talk about which one of these strategies would be good. And the one that I remember the students were, students were excited about Mr. Law, come up here, was this one, because he wanted to line up the place values and add them. And the students are thinking that this would be working with easier numbers. Students would think of this as 200 plus 400, and then they make the adjustment for 199. So they were all hee-heeing that Mr. Law was not being efficient in using the Take on Mr. Law for a moment. So this is a 3rd grade classroom, end of second. And this one, one of my favorite topics, very passionate about, is working with part-to-whole relationships. And this is a file from a 4th or 5th grade classroom. It is asked me about remediation, a 5th grade class that has some students, or maybe a title class, that's struggling with part-to-whole relationships and a linear number line. So we have a talk about the kids' landmarks when they're going on a drive to the beach. Oh, I know when we're at that big red farm, we're halfway to Grandma's. Or, gee, we passed that ice cream store and we know it's 15 more minutes to the beach. Or we talk about landmarks. Well, math has landmark or benchmarks also. I call them kitchen fractions. But oh, come off of here now. There we go. And the kids are really good at scooting these off. So here's our familiar fractions, and we place them on the number line, and there's a whole series of slides that goes along with this. This particular file is about a 2 to 3 day lesson, but this would be appropriate for 4th or 5th grade. We won't place the fractions on the number line. And then this is, I know we don't have 6th grade, but this would be 6th grade, or if there were 5th graders that were advancing, we would have a slide like this, where we're looking at an open area model, and the word that the principals want to hear when they're cruising through their building, the students are partitioning a whole. And here we would partition first into half because the shelf is half corn. So we look at about half. Now I would ask someone from the back of the room, because the research tells us that with the distance perspective, we have a better idea of what to judge. So I'm going to ask Ms. Cawley if you would like me to move that to the right or left, my partition.
Could you move it a little bit to the right?
A little bit to the right. Okay. I'm going to click on it. And just because I don't want to move the board, I'm going to, other right. There we go. And Ms. Cawley, would you tell me when you think that's partitioned into 2 equal size parts?
That looks good.
Is that pretty good? You like that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, then I see that beans are a third of the rest. Well, here we talk to 4th and 5th graders about opposing partitions. Since this was a vertical line, I want to get a really clear picture of how to partition the rest of it. So I'm going to do my thirds in a horizontal partition. Now horizontal, whoops, oh dear, that's really off. All right, orientation is off. Well, I would do my partitioning not quite thirds, but my thirds that way. So 1/3 of this are beans. Shade that in there. And then the rest is equally divided into 4 different types of vegetables. Well, I've got these 2 parts there, and I want to divide them into 4 different vegetables. So there we go. So there's my model of my partitions of what it looks like. And then pull to see a model of what the answer looks like. And again, we'd have someone come up and do that. A little different, but the idea of partitioning into same size parts. This would be 4th and 5th grade. So these were really brief examples of content and how that content can be supported with the technology. And I think somewhere in some folks' minds, they got hooked up in, oh, technology, we gotta have the technology. It's not about the technology, it's about the content. It's about the math, and the technology supports it. I wanna credit Sally Basacchio, who is your BSD Tech Integration Specialist, for teaching me how to interact with the smartboard and how to use that to hook the most reluctant learner, the naughtiest child who's sitting and squirming, but boy, they want to interact with the smartboard. They want to be the one with the best behavior that the teacher's going to let do the practice. Remember, this is 10 to 15 minutes for whole group instruction, and then individual work within the classroom and the manipulatives. Okay, and on to the next part. So the content, the Vermont grade expectations were in the Common Core State Standards for Mathematics under the guidance of the Director of Curriculum, Kathy Marcoux. The curriculum teams have developed the SVSU standards for mathematics. Those are documents for grades K through 8, in case you're looking at the K through 5. And that outlines all the objectives that are in the Common Core, plus the essential skills and understanding. Kind of like unpacking. Well, what does it really mean? What does it really look like? That's part of these documents also. And right now, our SVSU is in the 2nd year of a 3-year transition plan to the Common Core. There's 5 different documents that outline what's expected by June for each year. Those documents are additive, multiplicative, and fractional reasoning, geometry, and then data and measurement. And these documents and the expected outcome documents, those 5 I just stated, are all on the SVSU website. Teachers have them and access them on the SVSU website under the curriculum tab. Okay. And the technology I've been playing with up here, and this part, algebra in the elementary classroom. I wouldn't want to say algebra, but early algebra. It's not the algebra that we remember from 9th grade. It's algebra that I can describe with those. What do you see there?
Scales.
Balances.
Weights and measures.
You see teeter-totters, seesaws. How about these two things at the bottom?
Scales.
Scales, pan balance scales. And the common denominator, a little math term in there, the common denominator for all of these illustrations is that they have a sense of equality, a sense of balance. Do you remember your algebra teacher telling you that whatever you did to the left, you had to do to the right? That idea of keeping balance? Well, even in the K1, 2, 3 classrooms, we have the idea of balance. Let's see here. Here we go. Part of that algebra is the unknown in all positions. Here we have an unknown add-in using a variable. And we have an unknown add-in in the start position. And there's another unknown add-in. And this unknown in all positions is very clear. That's like a direct quote from the Common Core, right from kindergarten. And this is a slide from 2nd grade. This would be a beginning of the year. We talk about why is the teeter-totter way down on that side? And the value of it. The value of 8 and 7 is 15. We talk about those adding strategies. You don't say 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. No. We think of a strategy might be, well, this could be a double plus one more. That's a thinking strategy. And if this is what we have, see the little pull tab? Whoops. This, out here. I'll have to grab it from over here. There we go. This is what we want. Now, one of the misconceptions that your classroom teachers work with is that students will want to put a 15, because 8 and 7 is 15. But it's that idea of balance. The weight on this side is 15. This side has 5 already. What do we need to put with that so we have that sense of equality?
Good. Okay.
That's a discussion that 1st, 2nd graders would have. And then there's just all kinds of slides of examples. So thank you very much. If you have any questions or any specific details that, oh boy, that you would like to see, you're welcome to contact me through SVSU email or contact my boss, Mrs. Marcoux, and she'll direct them to me. Oh boy, okay. Yes.
I don't understand why, I know all these bells and whistles and things are fancy, but, you know, I get a little discouraged. I was in the, I do the 4 Winds program. I was in the 3rd grade, halfway through so they're almost 4th graders, really. And we were doing skulls and teeth. And the little girl counted 16 teeth on the bottom, 16 teeth on the top. So I put on a piece of paper, I put 16, 16, drew a line, put a plus sign, halfway through 3rd grade, and I asked the girl, add that for me.
Yep.
She couldn't add that for me. She just struggled and moved and things. And then she had this ridiculous thing across the top of her desk, I don't know, a piece of paper, and she's doing all this kind of stuff, and she's starting to pick it up. Now, you know, I would think in the 3rd grade, kids would know 6 is 12, carried it, I mean, and I'm just wondering, this poor girl really was struggling with this, and, you know, if the class is moving on, how are they going to get ahead? Now, I brought in my old kindergarten like this, and I'll tell you, in the old days, when people learn their things, now I was told by former administrators here that it's boring, and the kids don't like to do this stuff, but it works, and I don't know why they eliminate things like this. And then I picked up this other one this summer, Why Kids Hate Math, and it tells you put too much too soon. You got to get them adding, then subtracting, then multiplying, then dividing, and algebra can come for the advanced kids in 7th, 8th grade, 9th grade. But I think we're giving the kids too much, and they're getting very confused on things like this. And I mean, you may attract a couple with this, but I really think the old flashcards and, you know, the old way of doing things. I know, like I say, it was boring for me and rote learning over and over, going around the class, flashcards. But I think at the end, the kids really have a good foundation. When you want them to add a third and a fifth and things like that, they can comprehend and estimate much better.
With the Common Core, which Vermont is one of the states that adopted the Common Core, I mean, that's what we have to go with. That is our guide for what is taught where. And the 6 and 6 being 12, I don't know about the particular student, but that if I was in the classroom, I probably would have asked her, how do we decompose these numbers? How do we break them apart? And where I remember always being taught to add from left to right, one of the accepted, and my mom is 85 and she always adds the hundreds, the tens, and the ones. So 10 and 10 is 20, 6 and 6 is 12, 20 and 12 is 32. Remember, 3rd grade, there's no 6 and 6 is 12, put down a 2, carry 1.
They're not lining the numbers up like that anymore.
No,
I mean, that's not,
they're not doing
and
that.
so it wouldn't be surprising that a student who saw the numbers lined up like that wouldn't be carrying it up. I mean, when I watch my 5th grader do math, I have to have her explain to me, how did she get to that number? Because I'm getting it there. We're getting the same number, but we're getting there in a completely different way. And it's just and there is more. There is a little more thinking that has to go on with doing it this way. That hopefully should create the foundation for that more advanced learning in the future. I think the rote stuff worked for plenty of kids, but it didn't necessarily carry them into, what am I really mixing here? What am I really doing? And is that really, you know, watching a child take, you know, 99 and 17 and say, you know what, I can just throw 1 over there and I've got 100, now I've got 116. That's a completely different concept than lining the numbers up and saying 9 and 7 is 16, write the 6 down, carry the 1 up and bring it down. It's not our way of learning. It's not our way of learning, but it is making an impact.
But the thing that bothers me is when we do these testing for the state, we are getting a proficient like 25%. So.
But that's the country, Ken. That I think, you know.
Yes,
it's
no,
the
I
country.
agree.
We
I agree,
as
it's
a
the
country.
country.
That's why we're investing more and more into these.
But I don't see any improvements. That's my problem. I know it's, you know, it's the way things go, but I mean, there was a time when we were giving all the kids calculators, and they could press the buttons and come up with the answer. Then we give them a word problem for the same thing, and they couldn't understand what they were reading and put it down on paper, put it in a calculator by themselves. And, it just bothers me that the kids are so weak in math. They really are. I mean, I could go in 7th, 8th grade and give them some baby problems, I consider, and they couldn't even do them. I mean, I know a physics class, you give them a, you know, say add up 3 numbers, 16, 87, and 42 without a calculator, and they stumble. They can't do it. They need a calculator.
It's beyond the concept and the method of delivery. I mean, the issue of the proficiency is not just because of a smart board versus using 16 plus 16 on a piece of paper. I mean, there's, you just had someone sit here and present about the food bank and that we got to hand out 45 packs over a weekend. All right, so she said, it was her opening statement was to say that, you know, technology is great, but it's the concepts, and they're delivering it in a different method. So I don't think we should knock what we've invested in the supervision or in our district too awful much. You know, let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater.
You know, I just want the results. If we do this 3, 4 years and the results aren't any better, I think then we got to do something different.
You've got Jackie.
I like the concepts. I really do. But my problem is, if I was a parent and I was involved with my child, do our books that we send home with the children explain this so the parent can read back? Because, well, I'll tell you, I've always said this. My grandkids, when they went through school, they would come home and ask me to help them with their math. Now, I know how to add and subtract and multiply. I didn't know anything about these concepts, and I didn't have anybody teaching me these concepts. So I really couldn't help them because I didn't know what they were doing. Now that I've seen it, I understand it a little more. I'm just wondering if we have the materials for the parents, so that the parents can help. So it's not just the school teaching, so that, you know, do you know to understand what I'm saying?
You're referencing a book that goes home that the parent could look at and then help their child, because
Yeah.
I don't let your mother help you with this.
Do the kids have math
Because-
books?
Yes,
In the math books, does it explain the concept?
they're coming. We are in the process of reviewing curriculum,
Basically, my.
support
Even after
materials.
2 years, they still
This is
don't
my
have books.
group.
Geez.
Well, that's the
Yeah.
change to Common Core.
We're in the process of
You have to wait for the
Curriculum
reviewing
publications
materials.
and the curriculum
Several
policy.
different programs have been piloted. It ranges from Singapore math to bridges. It's different ones all over. There's no
See, it's,
decision been
I
made.
think it's really important that whatever curriculum we send home with our students that are learning in school, that either the kid can go back and read if they don't remember what they learned in class, or the parent can go back and read in the textbook so that they can sit down and actually help that child do math. Because I can remember, and it wasn't so many years ago, I couldn't help them. They were doing these concepts. I know how I could show them how I would add it up, how I would subtract it. I even learned modern math, whatever that was. But I couldn't do this.
This particular problem up here is off of, well, is it not off of it? It's out of a Singapore math,
Mm-hmm.
5th grade. And fifth grade, we're not doing ratios and proportions. Ratio and proportional reasoning is that wave of instruction for 6, 7, 8. So I was working with this particular problem down in Pownell and with the 6th grade, because they have a 6th grade. And teachers, students looking at it and said, we can't do that. So we went back to that modeling. Well, what does a ratio of 2 to 3 look like? So we pulled out 2 red cans and 3 blue cans. So it was, how many of these sets do we need to have in this 2 to 3 ratio until we're going to have 5 blue? And once we started that modeling, but it's that modeling. There's 3 big ideas in the Common Core: conceptual understanding, computational fluency, and procedural efficiency. And these 10 frames, the bead strings, the modeling, the partitioning, those build and reinforce those concepts. I'm way over my 10 minutes, so I'm going to close this down and sit down and... okay.
Just one last question.
Okay.
One, and I'd like to, support the frustration that you experience, because I experience as a parent at home. Donna will testify that I've had more than a number of conversations as a parent with either her or my son's teacher, whoever, because of the frustration that you've had. So it is very difficult to not be able to sit there and do the math the way that you've been taught to do it and understand to do it when they have all these concepts that are going. And on top of that, it's even more frustrating when you want to be a vested parent and you don't know how to do it, you don't have the resources. So I think that's a really great point. And, you know, I live that.
Well,
right
I
now,
mean, I
and
used to try to help
it's
them
not
every
good.
day, and I couldn't.
Once you get some of them and you have someone that can take a few minutes, and you know, you go into the classroom, you go in the teacher, and you make emails and phone calls, you can learn it. And once you do, it's like, oh, well, I wish I knew that then. It would have made my life a lot easier in school. You know, I mean, so, but it takes a very active person in order to get that sometimes.
Can they? So Pat, I think you just said a while back that we're in that curriculum revision and the publications are coming up with the match to the Common Core. So we're probably at the point where there will be a selection and a budget request for materials
Right, it has to go
purchase.
through
And Kathy's
the
here, she could probably
policy
speak to it.
Right?
Curriculum is developed by SBAC policy. It's developed as an SEU with input from every school, grade level, and group. So there are intervention teachers and special educators as well on the teams. Another piece is that we have a Singapore math pilot at the same time that we have a Bridges math pilot. And choosing, an interesting thing is that many of the publishing companies really tried to jump on in front, because it's all about making the buck, to say, oh, we have a Common Core match, an exact match. And there's been quite a bit of caution about jumping into a purchase very quickly that says, oh, we're a match because we're a match. So that is why some pilots, we also have a math and focus pilot that is going on as well, which is Singapore math based. It's really very interesting. There are different reasons why one would like one piece over another. But it's also important that we choose wisely, because any purchase is very expensive. So our best at this point we have our top 2 or 3 selections, and the curriculum group is going to be meeting again this summer to make a selection.
Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
The only thing I was just going to mention in general is, one thing that I was going to ask about is if I'm invited in, is she inviting into our schools a lot? One of the opening statements that she said,
Yes.
as
Oh,
a
yeah.
resource. I just want to hear if I'm cautious and nervous.
Our
that
teacher's
maybe she's
asking
not
her to
out
come
there.
in.
Oh, yeah.
You're looking at me.
Well, just in
all of
general,
it,
she
yeah,
said,
all
if,
of
you know,
it,
she's part of the SU, but, I'm out there if I'm invited, so I'm,
Yeah. I think
she's
I
a
would
resource. I hope we're
just
using it.
speak to Molly. We actually have 2 math title teachers that are
As
doing
well.
the same thing that Pat is doing at Molly. So she doesn't spend a tremendous amount of time at Molly, but you're in contact with Gail and Janet, I think, too. So they're on that same page. But
And she does spend a lot of time at Monument. Teachers do invite her in. She is a constant source of support to teachers, so I think she's actually a regular visitor all the time. When she's there today, so I'm always saying hello. And they really are working collaboratively with her. She's a great resource, absolutely, very valuable.
Okay, thank you again. Frustration. Next item, financial report, treasury report. I think the treasurer's report was emailed to everybody, kind of late, but everybody received it. And a budget status report is also enclosed from Rick. Any questions on either of those?
Nope.
Can we have a motion to accept the treasurer's report?
So
Second?
Discussion? Yeah. All in favor? Okay, unanimous? Okay, old business, Bennington Elementary addition. Rick.
I'm going to let Paul and Jim run majority of this conversation. I'll be happy to jump in.
After our last meeting, was it yesterday? We met as a, got together with the architects again. After the last meeting, the architects left with the understanding, I think, to come up with a construction timeline, work it backwards to figure out where we would be and when we would have to warn a bond vote and all of that stuff. So yesterday afternoon, there was a meeting with the architects, Jim, his building committee team, Rick, Jerry, myself, I think it was everybody, and they came back with just that. They've done that research and gone backwards. The teachers, there was discussion in general about the 2 concepts. We're just calling them A and B at this point, which was if everybody remembers, it was the A2 and B1.
Yes.
2 options. They're just now A and B. Everybody definitely was, I think, very much supportive of the B concept and what it offered in its completion. With that, here are the information that was prepared by Centerline with regards to the construction timelines and when we would have to have agreed upon if we're going to go forward with a bond vote. Pretty much you see here, they worked it backwards, and we would have to have decided by April 1st. We'd have to, that's when we have to warn it, right? That's when it would have to be something like that.
You may not have saw the email that came late this afternoon. There's a slight adjustment. If you look at the second bar as far as the bond vote where they have 5/7/13, they could in their estimation, or we could, you could, postpone that bond vote as late as 6/4/13 if you are willing to spend approximately $35,000 to get all of this stuff in the first box, of which I think you're going to need the majority of that stuff in the first box to educate the public appropriately and get that done. So that was a slight change that came in late. So there is some flexibility between 5/7 and 6/4 for a bond vote, depending on the amount of information you want them to put together for you for that bond vote. If you want to spend less up front and have the bond vote on 5/7, they need more time after the bond vote to obviously do design and schematics and stuff. Sorry, I took you after you.
Well, we knew that was even if that, we knew that that was a, the whole schematic drawings and the concept of getting the program accurate was tight. The whole process has been fast, so.
Yeah, we actually had a faculty meeting today, and we took the schematics and posed those in front of groups of teachers and let them kind of react to the two possible options with positive or negative or questions to try to generate a list of things to consider in further planning. So.
Did it go well?
There was a range of reactions. Someone mentioned at one of the meetings earlier about, I think it was Jackie, about educating the community and getting that information out there. So it was that initial, piece to that, and there's always initial reactions to, but what about, or have you planned this, or where is this into the picture, which is typically a, I have a particular interest and I want to know about that particular interest. When this is kind of a broad stroke of here's the outline, the framework, the pre-thinking. So those comments that we receive back will just be used to kind of focus and adjust accordingly, or not, depending on what the board's choices are.
So you guys are asking for $35,000 so that we can push the vote to 6/4? Because it's going to take, you're not going to educate people in less than a month and a half without all these answers.
There's February, there's March, and there's April.
You're in.
It was 2.5 months then.
May.
That's May 7th.
Depends on which way you go. If you were to spend the $35,000, then you get an extra month. If you don't, then you've got February, March to gain all the information, warn it, and then you have that third month, which would be April, the month of April. So you'd have 3 months from now to when the vote would be to do your education and your promoting and answering the questions. And at the same time, I don't want to speak too much, but I mean, at the same time, Centerline would be aggressively pursuing these schematics, meeting with Jim on a regular basis and creating a fluid relationship.
But the board also, would the board also have to, though, prioritize for itself right now, A or B, because the investment in the schematic design is, you're not going to do two options. We're going to have to make a decision, or at least a direction as to where we'd be leaning A versus B, so that because it's not like we're going to the public and saying, which one do you want? We're going to the public and saying, we've considered and we think this is the best choice, and this is the price tag, and let's tell you why, and here's some more, information. But I think we have to, as a board, have to kind of pick a path and then decide whether we're going to spend the $35,000.
I agree. I don't think that decision's tonight.
No.
I think what, we're kind of circling the conversation, but I think it needs to be on the table. I talked to Ken today. We talked as a building committee, for lack of a better title, that well, when we thought it was 5/7, we definitely knew we needed 2 meetings in February and 2 meetings in March. And our thought process was, correct me if I'm wrong, Jim, but we wanted to reach out to the faculty which
Right.
we started today. We want to reach out to the PTO, PTA, whatever you guys call that here.
Right.
Every building has a different acronym for it,
Right.
which is coming up soon,
Next
I
week.
think you said. And what we thought the logical process would be is to get that feedback from those groups, get back together as a building committee and come back and say, it appears that we all think we need to go with X. I'm not going to say A or B because it's going to, that we think we need to go with X. And obviously, that's going to be our recommendation to the full board, which will start to flow this. So we're hoping that process is going to take place pretty quickly in the next couple of weeks. At minimum, or hope to meet your second February date, which we haven't scheduled yet, or at the latest your March board meeting, to be able to say, yes, we're going with this plan. And then that will obviously push them in that direction. I tend to think the later the better. I think if we had more time to put the plan together and have a articulated message to the community, that would likely be more successful.
There's a couple things that I really'd like to do before we brought it to a vote is make sure that we're not in trouble in the floodplain. Didn't we at one time have an archaeology type thing situation out here where they were digging? Yeah, it was on Bennell property.
I'm not saying it wasn't, I'm just saying I don't recall that. I'm not saying it's not true. You would probably know better.
Yeah, they did, but it was, the board at the time, it was when we were looking at to build, or do something here, they allowed a local archaeologist to dig on the property because of this is the former site of the old Norton Matters.
Oh, okay.
So, that work had.
When we did this edition?
No.
Actually,
Oh.
it's actually.
It was a long time ago, but it just came up
Actually,
when the guy was going over the floodplain. It just stuck in my mind, and I didn't ask that night.
Yeah. The current, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say is, that the floodplain is, from the architect's perspective, is a concern, and they've got to do some research on that. They know that it's in a floodplain for sure. If what they're researching is what effects does that have on either option with regards to building A or B. And there's going to be some cost drivers in there associated with that, and it could also change the statuses of the classifications of, like, the front of the building is on the historical preservation site.
Possibly.
It's
It
possible.
hasn't been finalized yet.
Okay. It may be on there, and if that's the case, there's issues around that as to whether we.
The front of this building's on a historical site?
Historical, that's what I meant.
Park Street?
Why? Because it was built in 1953?
Yeah.
I'm not historical.
It might be hysterical, but not.
Well, anyway. And what it would do is, if, as they look into that floodplain, it may push us towards the B sooner than later, possibly, depending.
And I
Who's gonna get this
really would
information?
like a refined cost estimate.
Oh, yeah.
Because you scared me.
Wow.
I think also, even though we're moving in this direction, I think that one of our meetings fairly soon ought to be the fact that we ought to be reacting a little bit to a few letters that were in the paper, reviewing various things that the community said, even though I think I know where the board is coming from, about somebody asked about the 5th grade, and even though we've discussed it, we as a board should have at least one of our meetings to air all of these items to anybody that wants to come and air them out. But that's not to push this aside, but I think that time allows us to do that so that we've done our homework and that we have, as a board,
I agree with you.
eliminated all these items, because people ask about it and we should be discussing it and talking about it in that avenue.
No, I agree with you on that.
There's a copy of the letter, I brought it in, so
Yeah.
we should make it part of our minutes.
Yes.
and we should be prepared to respond to it.
Absolutely.
And it's well-written and it's thoughtful.
And I think just because individuals who may not have been following the discussions that have been happening for a couple of years now about whether it was the Act 153 and use of our buildings and the opportunities from more collaboration or other things, the concept is one that BSD is its own district. The MAU is its own district. We don't control the use of the MAU buildings. That may have been something that could have resulted from an effort to bring a common, K-12 district together, but we lost that. And the opportunity to use or to collaborate with other districts in better distributing our students, that's over. So for people to come along, I can say this all now because I have 2 board meetings left. For people to come along and throw darts right now and say, well, why aren't they thinking about this or why aren't they thinking about that? Where the hell have they been?
Yeah.
We have talked about the 5th grade going up to the middle school. It's not going to happen. The middle school doesn't want our 5th graders. They want the rest of the 6th grade up there because then they could have an integrated 6 through 8 program. So for people to we decided after 153 went away, and I spent a year playing with 153, that it wasn't going to happen, and we had to focus on our own buildings. So for people to come back and now say, well, go talk to the MAU, because we've got a beautiful building up there, and why aren't we using that? The reality is, we're faced with a deadline. We know we have student projections that are going to put us next year. We're going to wait to see how all the parents react to what we have to do for next year. We've talked about that already in our budgeting. It's not going to get better, it's going to get worse. So this plan is really to address our immediate needs and really position this building to really continue to be a pivotal part of the BSD. So we've talked about, we spent how many tours around our 3 buildings to say we had to make investments in our buildings? The community was invited to come into our buildings and see the condition of them. I don't remember a single member of the community coming along for those invitations. So we have to educate them, but we also cannot let them paralyze us. And we have to take a leadership role and put a proposal out there. And you know what? If the voters don't think it's a wise investment, it shouldn't be us holding it back from the voters to make that vote. And these people can vote. They can go and they can rally as many people as they want. But it shouldn't paralyze this board in doing what it knows it has to do, because we're going to have a crunch that's not that very far off. And we need to put a reasonable plan forward.
But I think George does have a point. When we do have our informational meetings, that we do tell them why we are not going to put the 5th grade at the middle school, why we aren't sending our kids to the other schools, and the cost and all the other things that we have analyzed, because they haven't come to the meetings, and we don't know if they're watching.
Right. But we have talked. It's not like this board hasn't had these conversations. So we should take credit for what we have done, and not think that we have to be reminded of these issues. We have chatted. We've more than chatted about these things, and I know Ken has taken the issue to the MAU on a number of occasions. We've asked you to take it to the MAU about whether there'd be an interest, and we were dismissed. Oh no, we're still working on the 6th grade. We want to see if the other outlying districts want to send their 6th grade, so we can't make any commitments to UBSD about that. And we've had the conversations with them, and they haven't gone anywhere, and they're not going to go anywhere now. So that's just my piece on whatever plan gets put forward. I think we owe it to the community to give them the option to make a decision and to vote on something.
With all that said, there is we did visit the other schools, the other 2 schools too, and there were deficiencies there. And we're not even discussing those.
It's an incrementalist approach.
Well, we can't go out and I'm not even going to say it. I mean, I would love to do Molly Stark all over. I'd like to do a few things to Monument, but are we going to go out and say we need $60,000, $70,000 now to do $1 million to do all this stuff? We can't do that.
If I win the lottery tonight, I'll give it to you. Right, George?
I mean, maybe in 5 years we can say we need to do this at Molly.
especially if the state comes up with starting to give 30, 40, 50% of new construction.
Right.
That would be nice.
Or areas start to close around us.
Okay, is there anything else that you want to give us on this?
So do we need to pick a February meeting so we can come back together? Because I think we probably need a session just on this.
And I don't, you don't need to set a bond, but I think it'd be nice if we got an indication that you were leaning towards early June or early May, because that's going to give us direction as a group committee.
You want that now or at the meeting, at the next meeting?
It'd be nice if we have it now, and frankly, it'd be nice if the board authorized the expenditure of $35,000 to have the architect continue developing plans.
And that's in our reserve fund that we have there. What's the board's pleasure?
Explain that 35.
My personal feeling is I'm not going to vote $35,000 tonight for the early date.
No,
That's just
for the
me
late-
speaking.
That's for the late date.
That's for the
Yeah.
late date, right?
That's to get us to the
Yes.
late date.
Were any of these questions addressed when this edition was put on?
We paid cash for this edition.
Well, no, the point is that you could have done a larger edition and you were restricted, or you just chose not to do a larger edition. I
Right.
wasn't on the board at that time.
Chose not, we
We were
chose
using available funds.
Yeah.
available,
Paid cash.
right, we paid cash. There's no loans, no bonding, no permission from the
Took it
bank.
So you could have done all of this.
No, we had no, we didn't have the money. We had
But they could
the
Well, if you
afford.
had, okay.
They didn't go out to bond.
600,000 for this, not 5 million.
We're gonna have to spend this 35,000 one way or the other, if we're gonna go out to bond for a new school.
If you're going any step beyond tonight, at some point between now and September 1, you're going to spend this $35,000 by.
And the sooner, if we get it done, we can take our time, and meet with, the community members and have real meaningful talks with them, and then they're gonna vote yes or no.
Correct.
That's all I'm saying.
So, but if we don't, what are they gonna spend the 35 on if we're not telling them which plan we're leaning towards?
Well, that's largely what they will after the next couple of weeks, but they need to work with the building committee, with, you know, Jim's faculty to, I don't want to say tweak, but to massage the programming in space to make sure that we're delivering all the space we did. I mean, the plans you guys saw last week, or was it what you saw last week, I mean, was an extremely expedited, quick turnaround of conceptual thoughts and plans. And even the one meeting we had with, you know, the faculty representation, you know, they made, you know, a handful of adjustments, say, well, we need this here, you know, the door would be better here, we gotta put a bathroom in this location, you know, different things like that, you know, and hopefully we cut some of the costs. We cut a couple of things out that, you know, hopefully we cut some of the costs of some of the construction area. You know, so a lot needs to happen over the next couple of weeks, but, right, we need to focus on a plan fairly soon. And I'm hoping that's gonna take place in the next 2 weeks. Or when you get together again, whenever that is. I don't want your second meeting in February to be next week. You gotta, you know, hopefully it's
Vacation.
a couple weeks out to give us some time to accomplish some of this stuff. But then they're gonna spend it on, you know, largely putting together the 50% of that design, so, and come up with some real conceptual ideas of what's gonna take place, so that we can get a better cost estimate on the cost. I mean, right now, it was a very down and dirty, back of the napkin cost estimate, and, you know.
I know, but
I'm
it was
assuming
scary.
Well, it should have been. I mean, because I'm assuming, I don't know the gentleman that did it, but I'm assuming if he's anything like me, he rounded a lot of things up, because it was very vague numbers he was working on. You know, I'm gonna be comfortable there. So, you know, it's largely buying all that stuff in that first block.
Where does the, we've given them this, there was a first step contract here, we put it out, we selected them to take us so far. What have we bought already, and have we already spent that, or is that?
The only thing we bought in today was the $8,700 to get us to
That's up to her.
last
Give that to
Thursday.
Lori, she keeps coughing.
Till last Thursday.
Right, and that 35 includes the 87, so it's not an additional 35, that includes that 87, so I guess I only need approval for the incremental difference. Whatever that is off the top of my head, 26,000 bucks. $27,000, something like that. You know, and then, you know, we theoretically have a master contract of $157,000, and if we go, you know, go the distance on that basic box, I mean, you know, the more we go outside that basic box, the more it's going to cost us, because it's outside of the original scope of the work. So, fortunately, they're working with us, and they're doing it in increments. It's not like we have to sign a $135,000 or $200,000 contract and potentially get nothing. They're basically working with us in steps and saying, okay, this first step was $8,000, $9,000. To get you this next step, it's another $27,000, $28,000.
No, because we're obviously talking about this because the enrollment sizes are bubbling. We're running out of classroom space, we got a bubble coming. Now, the bubble's gonna continue through, right? I mean, it's hitting us first, but I mean, am I not understanding? It's gonna hit Mount Anthony at some point as well.
Yeah.
I mean, so I mean, you know, or we just passing it along, you know what I mean? We still have the problem with the bubble, and we can, even with regards to this letter, sending the kids to the middle school still doesn't save the community the problem that we may need more space anyways. And if this is going to be a central...
They won't need more space at the middle school or the high school.
They have capacity.
They got, I mean, high school's 1,000, it used to be 1,100, so I mean, there's plenty of room at the high school.
At the middle school? I'm talking about just in the middle school. I know that there's space there, but they talk about...
Yeah, there's a lot of space there.
At the end of 5 years or whatever, you know, have you filled that? I don't really know.
The middle school can handle the bubble. Is that what you want to know?
What can you handle the bubble with?
The 5th grade?
Right. That's my question, is if we were just say send the 5th grade plus the bubble's coming, I mean,
They're not gonna take them.
I don't know.
There would be differing opinions on that. That's my best political answer.
But we should not, I mean, the bubble is part of this, but if we also look at the design, we have repeatedly identified the deficiencies in our building, not having the requisite space for a lot of the ancillary services that are essential to our,
That's correct.
the learning, the teaching, the space for whether it's pathologists, speech pathologists, or it's, you know, other specialists who are coming in to assist our population. This addition is not just about classrooms and that bubble. This addition is really a good format for what we'd like to be able to replicate in our other buildings in terms of some of the ancillary space, which when we did the looking at the Vermont standards in terms of the square footage and what would be, if you were building a school today, what would it look like? It is not just build classrooms. It's build that ancillary space. It's build that meeting space. It's build that one-on-one space. And I mean, what I loved when I saw the designs was that we talked about it and it was on the design. It was there. That ancillary space was built into your planning, and it wasn't just 5 classrooms. So that's not going to be solved. These buildings will remain to have those deficiencies even if we don't have a bubble. We're with the bubble being able to address some of those issues too.
Right. Even with this, however, there are still some questions about some of those ancillary support
spaces
programs, right? Now, it will help, but we operated within the confines of the original 5 classrooms in 10,000 square feet ballpark. So we didn't want to go beyond that. There will still be some spacing problems for those supports.
But
not as bad, but.
And part of the thought process, and you're right, you need one more sentence there, is that theoretically when this bubble's over,
You're gonna have that space.
we're going to have that additional ancillary space, and it should theoretically take pressure off of not only Bennell, but Molly Stark and Monument to be able to redistrict some students to take more advantage of the space we have available to create additional spaces in those rooms as well, or in those buildings as well. Now, that's a long-term plan that's 10, 12 years down the road, and could be another bubble that gets generated between now and then, but, you know.
Bennington grow?
You know, but theoretically,
Right.
you know, after the bubble's over, there is going to be additional ancillary space, which is not going to free up here, but the other buildings as well, my opinion.
But you need authorization of some sort right now in order for the architects to move forward at this point.
Yeah.
Even to get anything. I mean, even, so I looked at you, George. I mean, you're not comfortable with voting on 25,000 to
No,
get to the
but that's
later
just,
vote.
I'm just one.
No, I know you are.
Yeah.
But, I mean, let's talk about what is this board willing to spend? Is there something in between that gets us down? I mean, we got to meet again to talk about this to begin with in like 2 weeks. And in that 2 weeks, there's a lot of work that can be done to define the program, define some of the more cost stuff, but they're not going to do it for free. And if we don't do it now, then it puts us out another month.
Let's just vote. If we're gonna move forward. Here, I move that we approve an additional expenditure of $25,000 or $28,000 to allow the architects to continue the design phase of this project to better inform the board about its options and whether it can reasonably move forward with a proposal or a decision on an addition to the Bennington Elementary School.
For a June vote.
For a June vote. Yep, to afford us the additional time for a June vote.
And
Second it.
Jackie seconded. More discussion.
The only thing is, where's the money coming from?
There's a couple of pockets of money we have. We do have the reserve fund. If we had to go into it, that would be my option of last resort. We have some salary breakage that we had from not filling some positions earlier this year, and we have some equipment money that doesn't appear that we're going to spend all of that this year.
Okay.
So those pockets of money, I mean, that reserve fund alone could pay for it if I didn't had to. That would be my
But we don't want to get
option
into
of last resort.
We just put this out to bid. Now we've taken one, and now we're saying that the low bid needs another $25,000. Well, then we would have picked another group.
No, this is part of the
No, this is a part-
153.
It's all part of their proposal, we just didn't authorize the full amount. We just
No, they
had-
all bid on the initial request. We just gave them the request for a quick.
So what you're asking
number.
for, is it on top of the 140
More
or
detail.
150? It is or isn't?
No, this is
So
part of what was approved.
This is part of
No.
it.
I thought we already approved it.
No.
No, not all the way.
Approved
We
the
had to have all
selection
of
of the vendor.
You approved the selection of the vendor. We have not, the plan originally was, listen, we don't know if this thing's going anywhere. What's it gonna take us to get us to last
Remember you were
week?
with
And
us.
that was $9,000 of the whatever it was,
Yeah.
152, 53, whatever the number was. And this is now just
The next installment on that overall package.
the next installment of that overall package. If at the end of the day, we get to the point where we are going in a plan that's outside the original scope of the 153, then we're going to have another conversation and discussion, negotiations about what those additional costs are, if any. But right now, this is just another installment of that original bid.
And if we go to vote and they vote no, then we've spent 35,000. And we don't owe the rest. You know what I mean?
Any other discussion?
No.
Okay, all in favor of Lori's motion? Raise your hand. 3. All those opposed? 3?
All right, Chairman, it's your day.
It's your day, Jeremy.
4.
4 in favor?
Yes,
way?
huh?
4 in the A.
In favor.
Was that in
Yay.
favor?
Favor, yes.
Favor. 4 in favor.
Thank you. We'll move forward. Jim, Paul, and we'll get Claude to a meeting here soon.
Well, I just need a little more notice. I know, I just can't get a call at, say, can you
They've been
come
fast
in
and
this
furious, but
afternoon?
now that we've
Yeah.
bought some time, hopefully there'll be a little more planned.
And I'd be happy, I'm glad to go to those meetings, but I,
Now, when's your next board meeting be?
There you go, Ken.
I don't have a-
Ken has,
Anybody got a calendar?
Yeah, the week of the 18th is vacation week. I know I won't be here, but
Week of vacation?
February 18th is vacation week. The following week, MAU meets on Monday, Pownell meets on Tuesday, SVSU meets on Wednesday, so the only real is the 28th,
That's the last day of the month.
last day of the
And
month.
then you turn around and meet again the following week.
But I think we need a separate session for this.
Yeah.
So even if we're gonna, it's gonna be back to back.
Is this something we could meet like 5 to 6:30 or something before one of these meetings?
Sure.
SVSU or Pownell. Well, Pownell meets early. Pownell's at 6
I'd
o'clock.
rather
You
do
can
it
meet after.
Monday in front of MAU if you want to do that.
What is MAU scheduled to meet, do you know?
It hasn't been set, but it's
She may-
usually
She may have
7.
a education meeting before that, that's the
Yeah.
problem.
Right.
How about Tuesday to Pownell? What time do they meet?
They usually meet at 6. I can go down to
I
Pownell.
can't get
Donna
on
can start.
What
the
day
meeting.
is it?
Tuesday is
Tuesday, the 26th.
basketball.
I'm not gonna be here.
It's just impossible for me on
I'm
Tuesday.
away.
So before SVSU or on the 28th, Thursday? I'm just repeating your,
28th Thursday, or you gone all week, George?
I don't know if I'll be back by then.
so do you want to just do your regular March meeting and then another then? Or is that too late, Rick?
It would be March.
Are you gonna do a meeting before, when's town meeting?
Tuesday, not Tuesday, Monday.
So would we even get a March meeting in?
Well, the vote would be Tuesday the 5th, so you guys would be scheduled for Wednesday the 6th.
That's correct.
You wouldn't be.
Oh, yeah.
She looks so sad.
Was
So I
it
think
something
we're-
you can do next week?
28th. I know.
I'd prefer to
No, that won't
participate
give
with
me
one
time.
more meeting.
We won't have enough time to do it.
Okay.
We'll do it next week.
That's
You
it.
can do the 25th.
How about the 26th, no?
Or the 28th, Thursday.
26th is a
No.
Tuesday.
Jackie
Georgie
can't
out of
make
town.
it.
That's all right.
What about
I mean, if
Thursday?
The rest of the.
How
board
about
can
Thursday,
make it,
Jackie? Can you make the 28th?
I can try. I don't have a calendar in front of me. I can't tell you what days I have off.
Either one of them.
I forgot to bring my calendar, I'm sorry.
The more, the better. We'd
Oh, yeah.
rather have as many as we can get for
Yeah,
the meeting.
definitely.
You
need
make the
to.
28th or the 26th?
Yes?
And you too.
I just know I can't do the 26th.
Yeah.
I probably could arrange the 28th.
Okay, why don't we then tentatively get it for the 28th? Okay. 6 o'clock, can we do it early?
Yeah, out central office.
6 o'clock central office? Okay, thank you.
What time is the SVSU meeting on that?
7 on Wednesday.
Oh, this is Thursday?
This
This is Thursday.
Okay, so there's no conflict of interest.
And we want to get Jackie involved too.
I had another old business, if I could
Yes.
sneak it in there. I had a call from the leasing company for the Kunos tablets, whatever those things are called. And the bank that they're selling the lease to wants a 10% down payment on it, of $12,600 or something. We have it in our equipment budget. I just hope the board would approve that 10% down payment to be out of this fiscal year. And then there's, as we discussed last time, there's 3. There'll now be lesser lease payments because we're paying up front for.
Is that like $4,500?
Was that?
About 4,500?
That'll be about 12,600. Because the whole purchase was 126,000 and change.
Oh, I thought it was 10% of the first payment.
No.
It's 10% of the total. And then they're still gonna want the 45?
No, it'll be, I didn't get the the debt service schedule from them, but it'll be something less than that.
It should be
Because
40.
Because you'll pay the 12 up front. It'll probably be about $40,000 instead of 45,000.
So reduce each one by 40, 12. Okay, can we have a motion then to that effect?
So moved.
Okay, Jackie and Marie,
Yep.
discussion? All in favor? Okay, unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Those were purchased.
Okay, no personnel, none, consent agenda enclosed. Now, on the consent agenda, we have a updated version.
We do?
What was the consent agenda? No, where's it on here? I think we checked. I didn't open it. Catherine?
As you know, we've had a behavior specialist position at Benel that's been empty. We've done a couple of searches. Jim can also speak to this, but we do have a nomination tonight for an individual for that position, and so what's being passed around is the nom form and her resume with that, and that is the addition to the consent agenda. Also note for you the retirement on your consent agenda as well.
How many years? See how many years that's there?
So the salary reference here is for 76 days. Can you explain that? Is that the balance of the
Prorated.
school year?
It should be.
Correct.
She's going to be starting the day after the February vacation, right?
Right, that's the plan at this point, correct.
So it's a
And it would
yearly
be
salary.
where's the salary line? Yeah, that's the proration.
So it's a yearly.
1919 is 38 and about 48,000.
Yeah, she's 29 years experience.
Right, it's a candidate, we had two good candidates
Yeah, we really
to
did.
select from, and we interviewed both. We're very impressed. The difference being one having more practical experience on the ground, which is something that we really are in need of. Don Campbell and I and Donna Lee were involved in the selection. I was very, very impressed with this candidate. Without prompting, offered many of the things that I would have been looking for in interview questions. References were absolutely outstanding. I mean, just, again, without prompting, said all the right things in the sense of us trying to be proactive in situations, build relationships in situations, try to solve problems before they start. Just an excellent interview and an excellent reference check. And we need it.
Yeah, I think this person also will be able to help, even though they're the behavior specialist, will also be able to help with the communication around the special ed issues too at the schools. So, I think that's very critical at this point.
Now, where do we bring someone in with this much experience? Do we give them, like, cut them off so many years? Like 8 years, 10 years? I mean, we don't put this person right at the top, do we?
She's not at the absolute top, but she has 28 years experience, so she's at the upper end of the range.
She's got a master's.
And I think in this case, we're looking for someone skilled. The behavior specialist position needs to be a skilled, experienced.
Yeah, I'm not-
Yeah, no, I know, I'm just saying.
Yeah, okay.
That's why this candidate was chosen.
How old is she?
You can't ask
Where
that.
does this fall?
Sorry.
Where does the position salary fall within what we were budgeting? I can't remember.
The top of the range was 50,000, I believe, Donna? 50.
We budget, this is being paid for from the kindergarten
Position
that
unfilled.
wasn't hired, which would have been roughly about $60,000.
Okay, that's what I was.
Oh, thank you, Rick, I didn't hear.
And we've built the position in to our budget next year.
That's correct.
Okay.
I move the consent agenda.
Also, one more, I'd just like to acknowledge Mr. John Bashara, custodian at Molly Scart, turned in his resignation with 21 years.
Retirement, Ken.
Retirement, excuse me, retirement.
I would just like to,
Yeah,
take
please
this
do.
opportunity to thank him for his 21 21 years of good service to the Bennington School District, and he will be missed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just, I was, as far as the minutes on that consent agenda, for the January meetings, I can't vote on those, so I don't know how you handle those.
Pull them out from the consent agenda so that we can
So,
Okay.
okay, we'll remove the,
Separate it.
it would be the consent agenda without the January minutes.
Why can't you vote?
He can vote.
Well,
You can vote, you can vote.
I wasn't there either.
I just want to make sure, you know, if we're approving all this stuff there, I can tell you whether they're right or wrong.
But you can
So-
vote, though.
All right, well, you say so. I just want to make sure that I don't get myself or anybody else in trouble.
Police will be outside, like.
They look good at me.
Okay, Jackie moved, do we have a second?
Second.
Second, Lori. Okay, any more discussion? All in favor of the consent agenda? Okay, unanimous.
Good.
Thank you.
And then
Thank you.
Okay, next item, let's see, committee reports. Do we have any technology, food service committee reports? No? Okay, we did have one. Okay, policies. We have two policies. First, to adopt the Internet 6148. Do we have a motion to adopt that?
So moved.
Second.
And I got a question.
Yes.
Now I gotta find that policy. I had it out for you. Which one? Oh, it's right here. Line 42 to line 46. I read this and it confused me.
Is this internet?
Yeah.
42, 46.
It says accessing I think it's supposed to be defamatory, lewd, vulgar, or profane, threatening, harassing, or discriminatory, bullying, terroristic, or like electronic
Materials or media.
in addition to those stated in law and defined in this policy, are prohibited to students and employees. However, if a student is responding to an assignment from a teacher, then he or she is not in violation of this policy. Now, this doesn't make sense to me. Why would we be asking a student to get any of this?
Well, I think if you're doing current events with the Afghanistan war or the situation in Syria, you know, the terrorism piece is quite prominent in those events, so.
We should hope our teachers are not assigning anything that would, I mean,
Yeah,
to
we
the
may
extent
want to
that you think that-
clarify,
right.
I think maybe we would
Right.
want to clarify that.
Don't they have a block on the computer so they can't get into any of that stuff?
And we have block sites. Teachers have to actually request permission to release the sites. We don't have Patty here
Put
or
block on the
Frank, but
television, for God's sake.
if you'd like, I'll take it back for,
No, I don't want you to have
clarification.
to take it back. I just wanted somebody to explain, because it didn't read something. It just
Yeah,
confused
no, I
me at the
understand.
time.
Yeah, I think it's just like Catherine said, if some teacher assigned something on bullying, and the kids were in the library looking up bullying, that we would, hopefully, they were working on their classroom assignments and
Right,
stuff
they
like
wouldn't
that.
be violating the policy.
Right, they
because
wouldn't be.
They picked up material that would otherwise be violative,
Right.
Right.
except that it was
Might be what-
response to a
Well,
assignment.
for example, what happened to me last week, someone hacked into my computer.
That's right.
You may have all gotten something from me.
yes,
And
Claude.
they sent some message from my email, to everyone in my email address.
That's right.
Fortunately, it wasn't, technically, it was promotional material for something I had nothing to do with.
Right.
But it's,
Sure it is.
it took me,
Verify it.
it took me 4 days to get back into my own system.
Yeah. Oh, well.
So,
And the next week, there was another from someone outside that came in as well.
it's incredible.
I guess people are having problems with it. Don't email me, Claude.
Thank you, Jackie.
All the questions.
So we have a motion on the floor
Call the
to
question.
approve.
Yes. Okay, all in favor of adopting 6148? Unanimous? Okay, B, policy 5003, bullying prevention. We have a motion to warn this policy?
So moved.
So moved. A second.
Second. Okay, any discussion or comments on this one?
Just to bring it up to the state model, so we're just editing it from its previous.
It looked good.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, that's unanimous
Thank you.
too. Under Chair's report, I attended the legislative breakfast Monday morning, and again, it was a nice article was in the paper all about the changes that they're looking at, but the closed shop is still on the, I guess the Senate passed it.
Yeah, it's not a closed shop, Ken, it's an agency fee. There is a difference. The agency fee for union membership, it's as if they're paying a service fee for the benefit of having the union represent non-members of the union in bargaining the collective bargaining agreement. So it's not a closed shop, it's not requiring full membership at full payment of membership dues. It's a reduced amount for an agency fee, and it is quite controversial.
Because we did mention that it's been negotiations here in Bennington, and a lot of places in the state, it's a negotiable item, and this governor and the legislature just give that up to the people. And that's also for all unions, right? The state workers, anybody that has a union in this.
Extracting the no strike concession as a result?
No.
No.
That was it.
Wishful thinking.
You want to go on for another hour?
Dawson might want to interview you about that afterwards.
Okay. Any others people would like to bring up? George?
Ken, I'd like to add on the executive session, I'd like to bring up a personnel issue to add to executive session.
Okay. We have our student enrollments are on the computer, task list review for this meeting.
Oh, I have it. Sorry, Jackie, I just kept it down here.
I
Vermont, do you have it too?
No, she hasn't been doing it.
Vermont Food Bank backpack participation for the remainder of the schools in Pownell, emailing the food bank schedules, dinners, and that kind of thing. Paul's going to help with that. Parent support in anticipated curricular purchases, so for textbooks and materials and resources, that's a future budgeting that we want to be aware of, and we'll get a timeline for that. Our meeting in February, the second meeting will be the 28th at 6 p.m. in central office, and the last was to review the factors in the letters that have been in the paper questioning all the different options that have been studied over the last 2 years, and really in the informational sessions, catching them up and not pushing aside this, as George said, not pushing aside the Bennington edition, but making sure that we're fully informing people of the work that's been on and looking at all the options. That's it.
And I think something like what Paul was mentioning too is that someone was mentioning about books. There, a lot of parents when you talk with them, they get a little bit upset because what they get home a lot for the kids' homework is mimeograph and Xerox sheets, and they don't really have the book to understand maybe what they're looking for in that project, or as Jackie mentioned, how to approach that. Like you say, you can do it your way. 16, I didn't know, and then they bring it into school, and the teacher said that's wrong, even though it's the right answer because they used the wrong method. So. That's something we have to look at.
That's basically what would happen.
Yeah.
Let me show you how I did it.
Okay, can we have a motion for executive session then for student matter and personnel?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Second, all in favor?
I just need
Unanimous.
Donna. We can't sit down.